Okay, I just want to quickly talk about never going into the light. So, part of my plan to get out of here and to never re enter the soul trap is to not go into the light. So, when you get into that phase of delirium and you're going through the whole death, exiting this realm phase, um, all NDE experiences talk about being approached by their dead loved ones or Jesus or Buddha or whatever. Um, when that happens, that is the archons um, trying to entice you back in, to lure you back in. But it's not just archons, it's also just grey aliens um, that have also been mentioned in the afterlife sort of experience. They appear and they're the ones that process all the souls, because this is all like advanced tech. People can take your consciousness out and place you into anything. This transcends also into Gnosticism, where we come in here and we have the divine spark and think that this world is totally backwards and everything is devoid of anything good. We don't just think that. You can see it if you just take a few steps back and just pause for a moment. You see that everything's a lie. So to make sure you get back, you break free from the soul trap, the best thing to do is never go into the light. Don't even look at it, and do not fall for family members that are dead or any sort of guru or Jesus or whatever trying to tell you to stay with them, and don't you want to go back, and don't you want to be there for your dad? No, you don't, because your dad is an NPC who doesn't give a shit about you, and they'll just get sucked back into the soul trap and they'll do the same thing again. Also, this has been my experience when my mum passed, um, probably about 24 hours before she actually died. Um, she was out of it and she came to for a few seconds just to say, "Oh, my mum and dad are both here now. It's time for me to go. They're waiting for me." She said that. She came out of her like coma state, like she was sleeping like for like the whole week. She's in bed, just out of it, like, and then comes out of it for a couple of seconds to say that. I was actually gobsmacked when I heard it. I was like, what? She's like, yeah, my mom and my dad are here now. They're going to take me with them. They're waiting for me. Whoa. So, yeah, that is crazy. And yeah, my mum was an NPC. Pretty sure 100% she was like a good old NPC. Worked for the Archons, reinforced the Matrix every moment she got. My whole family were. They treated me really differently. But this is just about getting out of the Matrix. Simplest thing to do for the spirited is to just not go into the light and just don't fall for the gurus or any sort of being that appears or family member that tries to lure you back in. Those are just ways of getting out and what to look for. There's also a list of things you're supposed to do, but in the Gospel of Thomas, if you look at that, Yeshua just says knowing, just knowing is your way out. If you know, so like the Gnosis, then that's your way out. But I might make a video separate on like the whole Gnostic sort of seals to escaping the soul trap. But I honestly don't think it applies. I think it's just reaching Gnosis, as Yeshua says in the Gospel of Thomas that you just need to know, and that is your way out. That is your way back to the kingdom of heaven, the pleroma, whatever. Anyway, the Gospel of Thomas, which is one of the most basic, simplest texts to read, does have many sayings that focus on waking up from the illusion of the physical world and finding the spiritual truth within. So one of the sayings Yeshua has is saying number 3, the kingdom is within. So Yeshua says that the truth isn't some distant physical location or external system. He says the Father's kingdom is inside you and it is outside you. When you come to know yourselves, you will be known and you will realize that you are the children of the living Father. Another one is that is quite illuminating is saying number 28, and this is such a accurate depiction of the world today, of npcville, and all the Hylix walking around just my gosh. Okay, so Yeshua describes the world in saying number 28. He says that all these people are asleep and intoxicated, and he compares the existence on earth to that of a dream state. He goes on and he says, I stood in the midst of the world and I appeared to them in the flesh. I found them all drunk. I found none of them thirsty, and my soul was afflicted for the sons of men, for they are blind in their heart and they do not see. Yep, Yeshua, the same thing is still going on today. It's just totally uncanny to me. I love these non-canonical texts. They're just so devoid of any of the bullshit that you find with the Bible. It really shows how actually on the level Yeshua was. The way that religion depicts Yeshua in school is just so far detached to the actual reality of how he's portrayed in these texts. It's much more authentic, and he's so much more personable than the way that he's held on this pedestal in the actual Bible, which I haven't read in depth. I went to Catholic school, so it just got bashed on me for many years. Okay, so saying number 22 in the Gospel of Thomas, Yeshua talks about escaping the illusion of the matrix and suggests moving beyond the physical polarities of everyday perception. So he says, when you make the two one, and when you make the inside like the outside, and the outside like the inside, and the above like the below, and when you make the male and female one and the same, then will you enter the kingdom. So that one is a really profound sort of saying in terms of resonating with your spark. It really captures the true face of that relationship and the actual state of the spark so purely, because it is without all the layers and layers of matrix deception and perception in this reality that has just been psyoped onto us and conditioned onto us from the moment you're born. You're already indoctrinated into this conditioning, social conditioning. So de-identifying from that and going back inside and making the inside your outside and living through the truth of your Gnosis, the spark, is when you are able to find your way out of here and you break through that duality nonsense that exists in this dumb world. But yeah, that's a really, really good one. So I don't know, when you look at how Yeshua talks about breaking free of the soul trap, it really, he came to tell the truth of the state of things for all of us that are spirited, so that we could get out of here and not fall for the illusions and lies of the Matrix and all its perverse Matrix polices, because it's so, they've got the Matrix down so tight that it's really funny when you watch them like self-policing one another and just coming at you. You know, they always come at you like, no, 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 no. Don't you think for yourself now? You know, no, no, no. There's no inside outside. There's no getting out of here. Why do you want to get out of here? It's like awesome here. You know? Let's all go to work and hustle and buy more shit we don't need. And just getting even more debt. That's like so funny to me. People are just getting so much more debt and they think it's fun. They think that's fun. That's a fucking good time. Let's just all get in debt and never get out of anything. And they're happy as fuck. They're happy as fuck. So another saying 11, we'll just do this one. So transcending the material universe, Yeshua says this heaven will pass away and the one above it will pass away. He explains the temporary nature of this material reality, this material realm. And it's something that you already see and you know, and you've most likely distanced yourself from, because it's not something that you just automatically discover one day. I think it's always like below the surface, and you just try to fit into this stupid world and be like everyone else, and then you say to yourself, something must be wrong with me because I can't hold a job down and I'm just so tired and I'm like not achieving like, you know, Karen is or Chad. Like I gotta keep up with them and I've got to be as good as them and I've got to know everything and I've got to win. You know, we've just got to win. I want to be in the winner's circle. It's all about realizing that these are not the true state of being. This isn't our true state of being. It's a lie. There's no joy, there's no love. It's devoid of everything that's good. I think the Gospel of Thomas, at its most purest sort of, essentially it is about getting out of the matrix. I did mention the seals and all that. I might do a separate video on that. I went through the seals. I read through it just in case my consciousness knows it's there and can refer to it when that moment comes again. But yeah, well, I might reflect on that. But honestly, I don't think, without really knowing and only looking within myself, I think everything in this universe is governed by consent. Consent is like, seems to be a part of the universal law. So without consent, they can use things like deception to lure you back into the matrix, to make you reincarnate. Because the truth in plain sight, like the truth is always in plain sight. Like you can't deny that. If you are denying that, please just like click off this video and go get another job on top of your other job. All right, like, but essentially, I think once you know, and you just need to not consent to anything to get out of the matrix. That is pretty much the basis of it. Yeah, another sort of saying that's also quite relevant is like the first one in the Gospel of Thomas, where Yeshua says, whoever finds the interpretation of these things will not taste death. You know, I think the whole text of the Gospel of Thomas is actually for the spirited people that carry the divine spark, because once you have Gnosis and you have like you've been led to the text, you know, because he says also, once those who seek will find, and And it's funny, if you just reflect back on your own experience, you're always seeking truth and seeking knowledge, and notice how that always comes to you. Every time you seek more knowledge, you just get more. The truth just keeps coming. So I like to think that there is philosophical sort of basis of the text does take you somewhere, because not everything is about the things that you touch, the material things, the science of it, the science, the science, guys, it's in the science. It's not always like, you've got to have an arsenal of things. You can't just like go, oh no, it's only what I can see, because that's like the symptom of the matrix. It's the whole thing crumbles without a material basis. This whole world is material. So without that, what do you have? Obviously, you need to turn to your philosophical underlyings. Otherwise, what's the point in knowing all this stuff if you're not going to do the right thing by it? You need to have morals and virtues and ethics, and all of that is philosophical. You're not going to do right by others if you are not philosophically inclined to a higher standard. If you have no morality, if you have no virtue, you're not going to do the right thing by anyone. So these things do matter. You can become too entrenched in the science of things and wanting to quantify everything with like evidence. This world has a weird way of qualifying evidence. It's not always about those things. You have to discern everything from every aspect. Otherwise, if you don't stand for anything, you will fall for everything. And that is true. So I think that's kind of one of the key things with having the divine spark. It really leads you and is your main tool for discernment. Even for things that you just would not understand, it does guide you if you listen. It will tell you. I think that opening verse really says it all. It's really nice to kind of like read that and go, whoever finds the interpretation of these things will not taste death. So I'm not too sure how all those like seals that is mentioned throughout Gnosticism actually helps with your not re-entering into the soul trap, into this realm. And I don't think it's as convoluted as they say it is. I think it's consent and listening to within, and that will set you free. But it's just something to consider. So yeah.